My name's Caleb. I'm 30 now, and up until last year, I really thought I had a handle on what family was all about. Not the cheesy greeting card version. I'm talking about the kind of family you build your world around, even if it means carrying more than your fair share. I was always the quiet one, the dependable kid, the guy who remembered birthdays, sent flowers, and picked up the pieces when no one else even noticed something had broken. But I never imagined I'd end up being the one holding everything together in a family that, most of the time, made me feel like I didn't matter. That realization didn't hit all at once either. It crept in slowly, like something rotting under the floorboards. I was the middle kid. My older brother, Logan, was the star athlete, Mr. Popular. He had charm, he had crowds, he had the spotlight. Then there was my little sister, Jenna. From the minute she showed up, she was treated like royalty. And me? I was the B-plus kid who got constant reminders that I wasn't living up to some imaginary potential. But I didn't complain. I kept my head down, got a scholarship, moved out, and eventually started my own IT company. It was a grind. 3 brutal years of eating ramen, pulling 14-hour shifts, and getting ghosted by investors left and right. But somehow it worked. The business finally took off. Funny thing is, when I was struggling, I barely heard from them. But once the money started rolling in, suddenly, I was family again. It started off subtle. My dad asked if I could spot Logan's car payment, just until he gets that promotion. Then it was Jenna's private college tuition because aid didn't stretch far enough. My mom needed a hand with the roof. Then the heater. Then a new kitchen, the one she'd always dreamed about. Next thing I knew, I was financially supporting 3 households. And I was still getting texts like, "Can you Venmo me for groceries?" At first, I didn't mind. I was actually grateful that I could help. I told myself I was building something meaningful, a legacy, maybe. I figured that one day I'd look back and feel proud I made life better for the people I cared about. But after a while, the way they acted, like it was expected, like I wasn't doing anything special, started to get under my skin. Last Thanksgiving was the moment it all shifted. I hosted that year, not to show off, but because I finally had a house big enough for everyone. I had the place clean top to bottom, had the meal catered, even set up a fire pit out back. Not a single person offered to help. Not with setup, not with cleanup, not even with the dishes. Halfway through dinner, Logan stood up and gave a toast about how lucky we were to have each other and how family always comes through. Never once did he mention who actually paid for the whole thing. Jenna brought her new boyfriend and spent most of the night glued to her phone. My dad, as usual, launched into one of his speeches about how much harder life was in his day and how my generation has it too easy. I smiled through all of it, but inside, I was already starting to shut down. Then came the night everything fell apart. I had just gotten home from a long meeting when I saw I had a voicemail from my dad. His voice was clipped and cold, sharp in that way only dads can pull off. He said, "All you do is take. You've never given this family anything worth remembering. If you had any pride, you'd quit acting like we owe you and just leave." I sat there stunned. Thought maybe I heard it wrong. So I played it again. Same words. Same tone. I didn't yell. Didn't call back. Just stood there for a minute, staring at my phone. Then I walked over to the window and looked out at the city lights I used to love so much. And in that moment, something inside me gave out. Quietly, like an old hinge snapping under weight. That night, I packed a bag and left. No goodbye. No drama. I just told my assistant to freeze all outgoing payments tied to my family. And that was it. A clean, quiet break. 2 days passed. Then a week. Not a single call. Not a single text. Took them nearly a month to realize I was gone. Jenna was the first to reach out. Called me late one Friday night, voice shaky. "Hey Caleb, I just logged into the school portal, and my tuition didn't go through. Did something happen with the account?" She tried to sound casual, but I could hear the panic under it. I replied with just one text. Thought I never gave this family anything. No explanation. No follow-up. That was all I said. She didn't text back. But within an hour, I had 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Logan, and 1 from a number I didn't know. The voicemail from Dad. Darkly funny. "Caleb, we need to talk. Whatever this little stunt is, it's not funny. Your sister's future is on the line. No apology. Just more demands." That same entitled tone that always said, "You owe us." That weekend, I flew to Denver. I'd never been, but I needed a place far enough away to feel like I'd truly left. Rented a small Airbnb with a mountain view. Slept better than I had in years. I didn't check email. Didn't read messages. I just let the world spin without me. Back home, that's when it all started to fall apart. Jenna got a notice from her school saying she was facing withdrawal over non-payment. Logan's car was repossessed. My parents' mortgage bounced. And just like that, the house of cards they built on my silence started to collapse. They started reaching out to the rest of the family, telling their version of the story, painting me as the one who bailed on them without warning. Try to make it sound like I'd abandoned my duties. But here's the thing. You can't rewrite a story when enough people already know the truth. A few of my cousins had seen what was really going on for years. One of them, Sophie, my mom's niece, sent me a message that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I've always admired how patient you are, but I'm glad you finally stopped being their safety net." That hit harder than I thought it would. Because the truth is, I didn't walk away for revenge. I left because I wanted peace. And the moment they realized they needed me more than I ever needed them, that's when everything really started to unravel. I spent the rest of that week in Denver doing almost nothing. I'd walk to a little coffee shop every morning, write in my journal, then wander downtown, just to remember what it felt like to exist without the weight of someone else's expectations. No buzzing phone, no guilt, just silence. There was no pressure, nobody asking, "Hey, could you just help out one more time?" At first, that kind of quiet felt strange, almost unnatural. Like I had to retrain my brain to stop bracing for someone else's disappointment. By the second week, I rented a car and drove out to Boulder. I went on a hike by myself, something I'd always wanted to do but never got around to. Every time I tried to plan a trip, someone in the family would call needing help. A busted AC unit. A late credit card bill. One time Jenna called me from a resort in Cancun saying she lost her wallet and needed emergency cash wired over. That memory hit me while I stood at the edge of a cliff trail, wind cutting right through my jacket. The valley stretched out in front of me, wide and open. I laughed out loud, for real. It echoed off the rocks like the air itself was laughing back. 3 full weeks passed before my mom broke the silence. No more passive-aggressive voicemails this time. She sent an email. The subject line read, "We need you to come home." No hello. Just a block of text that kicked off with, "I don't know what's gotten into you. Moved into your father is furious. Then, we've done so much for you." And finally ended with, "Family doesn't abandon family." I stared at that line. Family doesn't abandon family. But they did. Every time they acted like I was just a heartbeat in the background. Every birthday they forgot. Every time they took my money without even saying thanks. Every holiday where I sat off to the side while Logan made his big speeches and Jenna got showered in gifts. They didn't call that abandonment. They called it tradition. I didn't write back. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Miles, the same guy who helped me set up a trust fund years ago. I told him to begin the process of transferring the rest of the education funds to a scholarship for first-gen college students. Kids who actually needed it. Ones who wouldn't laugh behind my back while draining my accounts. I also asked him to double-check the lake house paperwork, the one my parents used every summer. I'd paid for it, supposedly as a shared family asset. Turns out, my name was still listed on the deed. That made the decision easy. Sunday morning, I booked a flight back home. Not to patch things up. Not because I felt bad. I was coming back to gather proof. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. Landed around noon, picked up a rental car, and drove straight to the house. Same house I'd helped renovate when Dad threatened to sell it unless someone fixed the water damage. It looked the same. Familiar, but fake. Like a movie set designed to look like home. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Logan's old pickup truck parked out front. Figured he must have moved back in after the repo. I didn't bother knocking. I still had the spare key Mom forgot I had. The second I stepped into the living room, I heard voices. Logan was talking. "He's being dramatic," he said. "He'll come crawling back once he stops acting up." Then Jenna chimed in, her voice softer. "I don't understand why he's doing this. I mean, it's not that much money to him, right?" I couldn't catch what my dad mumbled, but then I heard him say it plain as day. "Caleb's always been the weakest. Hiding behind a computer, acting like money makes him important." I stood in the hallway, quiet, listening to them tear me apart, like I hadn't been the one keeping the lights on all this time. I didn't cry, didn't barge in, didn't even feel angry. Just confirmed. They never really saw me. Not as a person, not as family. I backed out without a sound and drove to the lake house. I stepped inside, looked around at the big open kitchen, and stared at the wall of family photos, none of which had me in them. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures for a real estate listing. By nightfall, my lawyer had what he needed to kick off the sale. That was Saturday. On Monday, I sent one final message in the family group chat. You said I never gave this family anything. So I'm finally giving you what you've always acted like you wanted: distance. No more tuition. No more car payments. No more roof repairs. Sell your own memories. I'm out. I left the group and blocked them all. I figured that'd be the end of it. But what I didn't realize was just how tangled their lives had become with mine, and how fast it would all come undone the moment I cut the last thread. Within the week, Jenna was looking at expulsion. Logan got fired, couldn't keep up with work while trying to get his life together. My parents? Well, let's just say the bank started asking questions about a mortgage they couldn't afford anymore. And me? I was already on my way to the airport for a new trip. This time, Tokyo. First class. No guilt. No obligations. And the best part? What happened when they tried to pull me back in? I was somewhere over the Pacific when my phone caught up to all the chaos. Missed calls piled up, dozens of them. Voicemails from unknown numbers. Probably Jenna's friends, or someone trying to guilt-trip me on my family's behalf. There were texts from my dad. At first, they looked like threats. Then they got sloppy, half-finished sentences like, "We didn't mean it that way, and you're still our son." That one made me laugh. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. Didn't open any attachments. I just watched the notifications stack up, like a slideshow of panic and desperation. It's funny, really, how the people who always claimed you never gave enough suddenly remember every last thing you did for them the minute it's gone. Tokyo was exactly what I needed. Quiet. Clean. Anonymous. I wandered through temples and neon arcades, let my brain relax in a way I hadn't felt in years. No guilt. No last-minute emergencies. For the first time, I was just me. Not someone's backup plan. Not the guy who fixes everything. 2 weeks into the trip, I finally unblocked one person, Sophie, my cousin. During the whole blow-up, she'd only sent me one message. No begging. No guilt. Just, "When you're ready to talk, I'm here." Not to change your mind. Just to listen. When I got back, I met up with her. We grabbed coffee at a place near her apartment, and she brought her laptop. "I want to show you something," Sophie said, sliding her laptop across the table. I leaned in and saw a Reddit thread. Of all things, it was Jenna. She'd posted under some throwaway username, asking strangers for money so she could stay in school after what she called a family emergency. She made up this whole story, casting me as the unstable one. Said I'd abandoned our family out of nowhere. Claimed I was having some kind of breakdown. And people were actually sending her money. Total strangers. Sophie looked at me, lips tight. She's already pulled in close to $6,000. Figured you should know. I just sat there staring at the screen, and what I felt wasn't anger. It was something heavier. Sadness, maybe. There it was again, that same old narrative, twisted just enough to make her the victim. Only now she was doing it publicly, turning it into a hustle, using the sympathy of strangers like currency. And the worst part? She still didn't realize what she was doing. That night, I didn't blow up or call her out online. I did something quieter. I went through all my records, screenshots of every tuition payment I'd made, every wire transfer, even the $400 I sent freshman year for her textbooks. I uploaded them all into a private Imager album. No names. No drama. Just dates, dollar amounts, and confirmation receipts. Then I left a single anonymous comment under the thread. Before you donate, maybe ask where the other $85,000 went. Some people forget who helped them once the help stops. It didn't go viral. Didn't have to. Within a day, the moderators pulled the post for suspicious activity, and the comments turned. People started asking questions. That was the first real consequence any of them had faced. The second one came a week later. A certified letter showed up at my office. From my dad. Not handwritten, typed, like it came from a lawyer's desk. It opened with this gem. "We are formally requesting a meeting to discuss the breakdown of our family dynamic." I actually laughed. Out loud. Like they were trying to hold a board meeting to fix what they'd spent years breaking. But the real reason was buried in the legal lingo. They wanted a cut of the lake house sale. Said they believed they had emotional equity in the property. I slid the letter across to Miles, my lawyer. He read it, raised an eyebrow, and asked, "Want me to remind them emotional equity doesn't hold up in court?" I nodded. We didn't stop there. We sent back a copy of the original agreement, signed by my dad himself when I first offered to buy that lake house. It said, in plain language, I acknowledge that this home is purchased by and remains the property of Caleb. I relinquish all future claims. He either forgot or hoped I had. That shut them up pretty quick. But the silence didn't last long. Not after word got out that I was putting the main house up for sale too. See, while I'd been in Tokyo, Miles and I were working on something behind the scenes. Years ago, I loaned my parents a large sum to help with the mortgage. Verbal agreement, nothing formal. They never paid it back. But Miles tracked every deposit, pulled every transfer, and we filed a lien on the house. They now owed me more than $75,000. Legally, I could force the sale. And that's exactly what I did. Sophie called me that night. Caleb, they're freaking out, she said. Your mom called mine in tears. Your dad's threatening to go public online. I let out a long sigh. Let him. I've got receipts. Let's see who wins that PR war. But what I didn't say, not to her, not to anyone, was that I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it to close the chapter. Because the truth they never grasped is that I gave them everything, my time, my money, my loyalty, and they took it all for granted. They mistook it for weakness. They thought I was a faucet they could turn on whenever they were thirsty. And now, they were learning what it feels like to run dry. And still, the most powerful moment hadn't even come yet. The day of the auction, I showed up early, parked across the street, and just sat in my car for a minute, watching. The air had that cold, brittle edge that always hit our neighborhood in early fall. It was surreal, seeing the home I'd grown up in, this place stuffed full of memories, good and bad, with a small white sign in the yard. Notice of foreclosure. Auction today. No trespassing. I stepped out, hands in my jacket pockets, and walked up slowly. The front door was already open. Inside, Miles was speaking with the auction rep, a no-nonsense woman with a clipboard and a sharp look in her eye. When he saw me, he gave a small nod. You don't have to be here for this, he said quietly. I want to be, I told him. And I did. Not for revenge. Not to gloat. I was there because this moment mattered. Someone needed to see it, feel it, and remember it, so it wouldn't just vanish like everything else I'd buried for so long. I wandered through the house slowly. In the living room, I noticed the dent in the floor where Logan once threw a baseball inside. The faded stain on the carpet where Jenna spilled nail polish and blamed me for it. The wall where my parents used to tack up report cards and crayon drawings, until, at some point, they stopped including mine. It struck me how little of me was here. Like I'd been a ghost in my own childhood home. The kitchen hit even harder. I remembered late nights helping Mom get ready for holidays. Washing dishes while pretending not to hear Dad ranting from the next room. Laughing with Sophie over burnt pies and undercooked turkey. Now it was just a kitchen. Just a space, empty of warmth, empty of purpose. There was still a photo sitting on the counter. One of the whole family, taken 2 Christmases ago on my dime. I remembered paying the photographer's deposit, remembered the matching outfits they insisted on, and how they cropped me out when they posted it online. I picked up the frame, stared at it for a few seconds, and flipped it face down. By noon, a few cars had pulled up. Some serious bidders. A couple nosy neighbors. And then my family. They arrived crammed into Dad's old Chevy, like some twisted road trip from a bad sitcom. Jenna was the first out. Her face was blotchy, eyes red behind oversized sunglasses. Logan followed, scowling like he was ready to play the tough guy. Then my parents. Mom looked worn out, older. 10 years older than the last time I'd seen her. Thanks for sticking around and listening to my story.